Hello and welcome back to Hull Seahawks Behind the Curtain. It's been some time since we've run one of these, but we're at this point in the season now, mid-season, turn of the year, where we get a chance to sit down with Matty, run through the season so far, on ice, off the ice, talk about, there's a lot to talk about, I think, is the quick way to put that. And really actually dig deep into, what's, gone on so far, first 4 and a bit months of the season so far for the Seahawks, Matty. So before we, start delving in deep to on ice, off the ice, the changes, and just give us a general overview of how you think this last sort of 5 months has gone for the club.
I mean, look, it's a lot easier to sit here now when it's a bit more relaxed. Have a conversation, just open and honestly about the season, where we are, where it's gone. After a game, it's different, right? But again, I'd be lying if I said we was over the moon with this season. Of course, we want more, right? As a club and as a group of players, the start of the season, I was quietly confident on sort of the plans that I had in place for this team. And look, I think I said it at the time that, or when it happened with the D-man leaving that left early in the season. I mean, Dave taking that out was a big change and a sort of a big hole that was not part of the plan. So that was the first sort of knock, really. And I thought, look, we started the season with a tough run of fixtures, and that's always difficult when you've got a lot of new players. I'm not going to sit here and be like, we've got more than anyone else. I'm just talking purely on us. We added a lot of new players, and I think young players, especially the D, and some forward as well on the two ways and stuff like that. So it was a tough start, but I thought there was some good bits, and I felt like we had something there with the team. And one thing I've really liked this year about the team is playing that 4 lines. I think that's really worked for us when we've been able to do that consistently with the strong 4 lines like we have had for a lot of these games. I think has really helped us and really helped the system, the style of play that I've wanted to play this year. Obviously, things happen, injuries, people in and out, and look, it was a tough sort of October where, it was becoming a point where the cup was looking not great, and that as a club is a massive, financial hit for us. You can never plan on being in the cup, but look, when you put a team together and knowing sort of what we spend and what we've put into the club, it was, I thought we had a good chance, and when obviously we was out of that, it gives it a bit of a knock. And I kept saying in interviews there was going to be changes, and people, no, I said there's changes and there's no change. It's like, it takes time, and I wanted to make sure it was the right person either coming in or leaving. And unfortunately, the ones that have left, it's early on anyway, Chris and 𝗕𝗏𝗏. Part of sort of that was some, behind the scenes in terms of financial decisions. Housing comes into that. And really not getting in the cup was a big knock on with that. So that was a tough part of it. Really like them too. Good lads. Did everything I wanted them to and came in. 𝗕𝗏𝗏, I think, struggled to sort of get into his game here. I think he needed to play more minutes and probably on a top 6, which was what I brought him into. But I think the new team and players, I think it was just a difficult gelling situation. And I think he's in the right place for him now. Nice to see him doing well as well. So and then Chris as well. It's that one was a tough one because I really like Chris. I think he's a real solid D-man. And again, housing comes into it, and it's just difficult to sort of keep everybody. Obviously, when I made that decision to bring Brock back, that had a knock-on effect with Chris, and that's sort of how that one went. And then obviously Brock came back, and we had the 5. And look, I think it's been such an inconsistent season. That's the one word probably that comes to my mind is the inconsistency of how we've played, being so good on nights and so bad in other nights. And trying to find that consistency is probably everyone's goal and dream as a coach. But yeah, we've really struggled to find that consistency this season for whatever reason that is. I'm still not quite sure. That's the sort of every day, every week. It's a process of trying to understand exactly, where we go and what we do now. But look, we're in a situation where we're not being daft here. We're not going to win the league, right? And we've got to do what's right for us and the club. And it's not just for this season. It's the long-term view as well. I know people will find that a bit sort of defeatist in a sense, but it's quite the opposite of that. It's more, we'll get everything. We'll squeeze blood out of the stone for this season, and we'll make sure that we can compete, and we will do that. But long term, there's got to be plans in place, and decisions that I've made have been with that in mind, and some decisions that people haven't liked. Obviously, a lot of people don't like a lot of decisions I make, but someone's got to make them, right? And I think later down the line, I think people might understand a little bit more of why I did what I've done. And look, people that have to like it, they don't have to particularly like me, but what I would like them to do is to, I'm sure we're going to talk about this, but to really rally and back the lads that are here right now. And what I saw this weekend was absolutely that. We had so many fans in Solway, great to see. And then so many fans again on Sunday, and right behind the lads. And look, that's all. Look, them boys in there, they want to win. They all want to win. They're deflated at the minute. There's a little bit of sort of not a defeatist sort of attitude, but look, we've took some knocks, right? We've got some injuries, some bad ones, and we've got guys out. Obviously, someone's left who the guys have played with for a while. It's not going to be nice for them, right? And that's part of sport. But we've got, my job now is to get them boys ready and feeling good again, and getting back to playing their best, because there's a good team in there and the good players. And yeah, my job now is to get them back to that level.
Obviously, something we'll probably come on to later on as well, but I think it's a good time to pick it up now, actually, based on sort of what you've just said. Is it harder to pick the room up and turn things around when, albeit I won't say it's not come from every corner of the rink, but there is a bit of a negative feel at the moment because, the inconsistent run of form, there's always going to be a bit of upset when a fan favourite leaves. It all leads to, unfortunately, just a bit of a, I don't want to say dull atmosphere, but there is not the... We've had better feelings around the club, I think, is how I'd put it. And is it harder to do your job? And I'd say it's not just your job to pick the boys up. We had obviously a good chat with Hughie at the weekend where he said, it's the full room and everyone's behind each other. Is it harder for everybody to do that when maybe some people aren't quite on the same page?
I think, look, someone like Hughie is... he's very experienced and been there and done it, and you've got to say the right things, and his job is, as the leader in the room with Bobby, you've got to say that we've got to pick ourselves up and pick everyone up. The reality of it is that them lads are human beings, and they're going to have feelings and different things that are going on right now in their mind. We're talking about professional sport. That's what this is. Professional sport doesn't wait for people to feel good. It's now. The nature of this league in this country, both the Elite League and our league, it's a 54 league playoff league season basically. Every game is a playoff game, and that's why this league or this country is so. It's such a grind, so taxing on, and that's everybody that comes here. I think if you asked the majority of the Elite League imports, anybody, it's such a long grind because we put so much stock in the league in this country, and that's why. Look, the job that I have is very, it's very tough. It's not something that I'm like particularly think I ain't cracked this one bit. I actually don't even know if I ever can crack this. It's very difficult for me to own this club, pay them players and coach them players. And that's the one thing I would say, is that there is nobody else in this league doing that. I know Aaron is the owner in Swindon, but his dad is the boss, right? Different, similar but different. And look, I think I've got a lot of looking at myself to do during this time, and I have done for a long time now. One thing I will say is that I am a very honest person and anyone that knows me knows that that's the way it is, and I will say exactly how I feel to anybody. I don't particularly care who that is, and I'll say whether it's bad or good. Now, look, whether people have got an opinion on me or me doing this job or anything like that, I'm more than happy to be the one that people hate. I think I've always been pretty comfortable with being the one that people don't particularly like, or whatever that is. I don't really care. It's more for me, am I doing the job that's needed for this club? And I've said this before, like, what am I going to do, stand in the mirror and sack myself, or have a chat with Matty on a Monday and say, listen Matty, you sacked? Trust me, I have thought about it many times, because there's not one part of me that thinks that where we are in the league right now is acceptable. But I'm also realistic in a couple of things. How good the league is, that's the first thing. The league has got so much better this year, way more quicker than I think everybody realised. And what I mean by that is the imports that we're seeing in the league are one thing. But I think what we're seeing is the British player in this league now, if you're not improving quickly, you're going to struggle to stay ahead or stay at the level that you want to be at, whether it's top 6 minutes, top 9, 4 line, whatever that is. This league's getting good again. And, there's several factors with this. My job is to make players better. And that's the part I really enjoy doing. In the week, on a Wednesday, we skate for a good 2 hours, and it's all skills-based stuff, and I love doing that. I love helping, the young lads, even Bobby and the imports, working on their game. It's great. That's such an enjoyable part of the job. But look, the main job is people. Lifting people and getting people to buy in is probably one of the most difficult things to do. And honestly, going into this job, I thought it was going to be pretty easy. Being the person that I am, I thought, yeah, no problem. They'll jump on this. Now, not for 1 minute am I saying the players are on board, by the way, because they all are. I know they are. But whether they're on board or they're slightly just not quite playing their best, that's a real difficult one to navigate. The line of that's very thin. And at the end of the day, it's one of them things that the small margins within games in this league are so little that one little thing here and there can change the outlook of everything. And unfortunately, again, going back into professional sport, that is unfortunately the business of it. One goal here, one goal there, and it changes the outlook of everything. You can be sat here winning 3-2, and great, the team played unreal. The team lost 4-3. The team were terrible, and it's like it's not either of them things. It's one thing I've learned is it's never as good as you think, and it's never as bad as you think, and that's something I've really tried to learn more and try and instill that in the lads, because this is nowhere near as bad as what it feels right now. And that's the biggest thing where we are is, look, yeah, we're 7th in the league. Yeah, we're not in a good stretch right now. But we've still got some really good players. We've still got a really good team in there. And we've still beaten, other than Swindon, everyone in the league to this point. So I think we'd be silly if we sat here going, this is a disaster, we'll write the whole thing off. Look, there's a good team in there. Hughie is bought in, Bobby's bought in. Them two lead the room in there, and then the imports drive the bus because they're the best players on the team, and they have to be the best players on the team. And Hughie and Bobby are there for the culture of the club and to make sure that no one takes nights off. I can do so much, but look, I can't be in everyone's head. I can't just say to someone, work really hard now, and then they just go and do it. Of course, I want them to do that every time they go on the ice, but that's just not the reality. I think what I found this year is there's been times where we have been all in and fully everybody on the ice is bought into the system, but also winning their battles and winning the duels. That ice hockey is just a duel of one-on-one battles all over the ice, and we've done that in so many games, and we look a completely different team when we do that. This is ice hockey though. You can do it the next night and just a couple of % off by everyone, or someone's quite a lot off, and it changes the outlook of everything. The system that we're playing this year, we've changed it, and I think that's been a big factor in probably a few of the things this season that have happened.
As we'll come on to, I think, a lot of the talk regarding the system we'll come on to when we speak about obviously the latest developments regarding sort of Owen moving to Leeds and the last couple of weeks. But just want to go back to the other big import change that we sort of spoke about earlier, and another big event that you've already mentioned this season as well. Won't go too much to the ins and outs of it, but we talk a lot about how the Dave situation was a big hit, and obviously the Brock decision in late October, early November, I believe that was, sort of thinking back on it, and that timed in with the changes with Callie and Chris. They're around that same time. When you put together the side, Dave was obviously a big part of it, and there was no sort of thoughts in the back of the head of we need that D-man, that import D-man. Obviously we had top Brits, young Brits as well, and you'd sort of thought about the pairings, brought in players like Noah and Tommy who can skate the way out of problems, and it all seemed pretty balanced, and then everything changes very quickly. We saw last season, obviously, a very quick decision made to bring Johnny in, and 𝗕𝗘𝗛𝗜𝗏 Hanas leaving, and Johnny obviously was available and decided we need that player right now, and that was a decision that obviously got made very quickly. Shocked a few people, I'm sure fans and even maybe people in the room as well. Was there ever a thought about doing that earlier this season, that we might need to pull a trigger earlier here?
Yeah, there's always that thought. There's always that thought of, I still really like the team. I still really liked the setup of having the four, because what it gave us was real depth, and that was going to be our strong point this season, was really our depth. I mentioned this so many times in different interviews about people saying how weak the defence was going to be and all that sort of stuff, and I knew it wasn't going to be. I knew it was going to be I knew we was going to be better defensively, because I knew the system that we was going to go in with this season was going to be slightly different. The way we was going to play was going to be slightly different, but overall I knew playing that four lines was going to be able for us to keep the intensity on. And I also knew some of the D-men that we was bringing in were going to be a real eye-opener to people, and I think Noah and Spraggs have been two that I don't think people realise how good he was going to be. Noah mainly, I think he's been completely standout, unbelievable talent as 18 to do what he's doing and for us, and he's we miss him massively. We've missed him these last week, 2 weeks. So look, when that happened, it was a worry. It was, right, are we strong enough? I quickly found out that we weren't. And the D at the time were not the problem. It was not the D were not strong enough defensively. The defensive part of our game was great in the first weeks of the season. We weren't scoring goals. We weren't actually creating enough, which was strange, because that's what everyone thought it was going to be. That was to do with the system change and the way that I think we was not going to be so open. all the time, and we was going to be more structured and solid in the neutral zone, and we weren't going to take as many chances and gamble. And basically, the reason Brock came back is we weren't creating enough offense from the blue line. At the time, I think Noah was maybe the top D-man with 7 points, maybe, or 6. And I think Ryan Wells and Ben O'Connor, the other ones were sat at around 20 odd points. It was too big of a difference. I knew we needed more offense from the blue line. There was so many D-men that I could have brought in, and it's one of them that at that point I wanted someone that I knew really well, trusted, knew what he was going to do and how he was going to play. So for me, it was a no-brainer. Now, that decision obviously changes a lot of things because you're bringing 5 in. So that was a headache that I knew was going to be, and I said it in interviews that I didn't enjoy. I didn't want to do that. I was a player that would have hated having that. I would have not enjoyed it, and I wouldn't want anyone to have that. Now, to put them in that position, it's part of the game. If they're not producing or they're not playing the way I wanted them to play, then they were sitting, and that was sort of the way it was going, right? Look, I think we improved bringing Brock back, no doubt, but I also think we lost maybe a bit of depth that we had with having the 4 forwards, obviously. So swings and roundabouts, yeah.
In terms of then having the 5, and this is something that's been briefly mentioned at times, but I think more mentioned since the change happened, that how difficult is it in terms of finding consistency? Because we've mentioned that word, inconsistent, sums up a lot of the season so far.
Yeah.
When you've got, obviously, I probably won't include Brock in this because, he hasn't missed a game since arriving, but for the 4 forwards, obviously, now 3, but for the guys who obviously were wanting to play every week, I know that there was a bit of time where 𝗨𝗥𝗏𝗧𝗧𝗬 was injured, a bit of time where Johnny had injury precaution, but how difficult is it particularly when they're all fit and they're wanting to play, to find consistency? Because you then means you have to change the lines.
Yeah.
It means that they're never going to be able to put this consistent run together. We talk, we're going to probably mention it at some point during the week anyway, but players like Johnny, they were just on an unbelievable run when making appearances right now, and they're making impacts every week, and you obviously want all 4 of the guys to do that, but if that chance taken away, it also becomes a confidence thing as well, in terms of finding consistency within the team. But for the players themselves, if they don't know whether they're going to play Saturday, whether they're going to play Sunday, all that week, and does that sort of then play onto the mental side, and how much does that come into it?
Yeah, look, like I mentioned, I knew it at the time that I didn't want to do it, and I didn't think it was a good idea to have to do that. Honestly, I really didn't. The reason I didn't get rid of anyone at that beginning point was I didn't want to get rid of any of them. They was all playing well at that point. 𝗨𝗥𝗏𝗧𝗧𝗬 was having his best run at that time. Johnny's played well all season, been our best player. Emmy, look, I think what the change did, what the 5 did, he's got Emmy going. What I noticed the biggest difference was when Brock came in, was the reactions of the players, and there was different reactions from all of them. The reaction I got from Emmy was the one that I really wanted to see. From that point, he was our best player for weeks. He went on a really big run, but he was playing hard all over the ice, and it's all those things I've been asking him to do. And yeah, his reaction was great. The problem comes when what you've just mentioned there was absolutely no consistency, and I was a player that played with a certain player all season, or certain players all season, and I realised how big that is for players, and that's what I knew was going to be the biggest problem, because it was always going to take rhythm out of guys and rhythm out of the line, and whatever that is. I think, look, at the time, they weren't playing well either, and I've just said it was playing well, but as a team, we needed something. We needed something to change it. So there was no real line at that time that was actually playing really well. The Sobs, Emi and Bobby line, what we know and love, it was unreal last season. It was unreal in a very different system, in a very different hockey team. And they played a lot more minutes. They played, in a different system where it was very much way less defensively minded. I tried that line more than any line this season in minutes, and it didn't work. It just didn't work. It was we was way too easy to break down on that line, and they're not defensively minded players, none of them. And I don't particularly want them to be either. They're offensively, they're all juggernauts in their own right, and they all have very good parts of their game. But I felt like it was very important for me to put somebody with them that could give them the stability. Didn't matter what mix it was of the player. What I know is Bobby needs Sobs or needs Emi, and Sobs needs a Bobby or he needs an Emi, and Emi needs a Sobs or he needs a Bobby. It's like every good player like that needs somebody else. You know, Sobs now will go with Kieran, for instance, right? Dream, that's a dream, right? And that's what you want. You want duos or threes is even better, but duos will make or break a team. Bobby and Emi have always played really well together, and that's why they stay together, because the two that can play with each other. But they needed someone that could play solidly and play that 200-foot ice hockey game every night, not just sometimes. And that, unfortunately, is not Sobs. And again, I've said this to him. I wouldn't want to take his strong point away from him. That's not what he's good at. He's very, very good on the puck. He's the best, and he can make a play out of nothing. But again, it was a decision that I made that I felt like was the right thing for the longevity of the team this season and going forward. And look, that's my decision. You don't have to like it. It is what it is. Out of respect, I said this in an interview, out of respect to Sobs himself, I said to him, this is a good move for you. And I actually said, you should go for this, mate. And I didn't need to do that. And do you know what? Another person would not have done that, but that's what happened.
That's what I was just going to come on to, and it's something that has been noted by, I think, more so Leeds fans than Hull fans, but when there is a rivalry between the two clubs, how do you put the club rivalry to one side and do what's best for not just Sobs, but for obviously ourselves as well? You've just explained how you feel like that change improves us in terms of giving our four imports some consistency and, you know, get the ones who play the system better. And then, as we mentioned, possibly, or well, look by the looks of it, just by Sunday, maybe improving Leeds a little bit as well. Yeah. Obviously, he had a big night. You
can look at that on the surface and go, well, where's Hull's ambitions there, just giving their best player to Leeds or whatever? First of all, Sobs was not our best player this season, and that's the truth of it. Whether you like that or not, that's the truth. He wasn't, but immaterial of that. If anyone thinks that I don't have high ambitions for this club, you do not know me or ice hockey or life at all, because I would and will probably die for this club at some point. Trust me, my blood pressure is not good. Listen, that's got nothing to do with ambition or anything like that. Do you think I didn't think about this for a long time? No one else knew about this, including Sobs. I knew about this for a lot longer than everybody. No one knew about this. I had to think about this for a long time.
Did that come from Ryan Aldridge?
No, it's just ownership. That's it. No one else knew about it. Just me and Steve Nell. And yeah, it's something that, look, again, you don't have to like the decision. I don't particularly like the decision either. I didn't want to lose Sobs. I love Sobs. Sobs has been unreal for this club, and he'll always be remembered and on all that stuff. But I'll tell you this, and this is the truth. No one person is bigger than this club. No one, including me. This club will be there long after me, and long after everybody. And I hope to God it's still called the 𝗕𝗨𝗥𝗧𝗧𝗬𝗓. That's my ambition in life. But this club don't stop for one person. It never will. People are just custodians of a club for a time, and then you move on, right? No one's denying how good Sobs has been for this club, but that don't mean we're going to win. That's the truth of it. So that's it. I make decisions on that, and that alone, and that's the way it's got to be. You can't get tied down with, personal feelings about this, and that's a sad state of affairs, because that kid is a friend, and I've done a lot for him, and yeah, when you see someone like that walk out of the club, it's not nice, but at the end of the day, again, it's for the better of the club in all facets. Financially, what people will never realise, and it's not the payment for him, by the way. Everyone thinks we're loaded because they've paid for Sobs. That only happens in football, ladies and gentlemen. That does not happen in ice hockey. What I can tell you is, 𝗕𝗨𝗥𝗧𝗧𝗬𝗓, we have done as much as we can financially to get this club to where we want it to get to. Trust me, we are not flush by any means at all, and we do our best. Trust me, we are a family-run company that do our best. I do this in my basically spare time, but full time now, while I've got another company running. Sam, my wife, does it when she's got 3 other jobs. Joe has got another business and does this on the side. Lauren, everyone who works for this club is doing this because they love it. This is not something where we've got rich from that, and also it was the right decision to make for the financial stability of the club, and that's the truth.
Just to sort of pick off on sort of the point regarding sort of, looking ahead, longevity and longevity this season, and still having the ambition. Obviously, we mentioned earlier, there is still that, it's all about the playoffs now. It's long 54-game season to seed you for playoffs. If you obviously make the cut first, but get that seeding right, and it's so tight where we are at the moment. This 5-6 teams, looking at a handful of points. There is that sort of splinter group up towards the top. But when you look at sort of what we've got now, then obviously running pretty close to the deadline for roster changes. Some clubs might still be looking to make the odd change. I think it's end of January normally when rosters have to get locked down. In terms of what we've got then, this final sort of 3 months or so, 3.5 months running into the playoffs, sort of just pick apart why you feel like we're in a better position now to turn this around than we were a month ago or a month or, because we've mentioned the changes have been made with that in mind.
Yeah. Well, firstly, the biggest thing is stability and commonality with players on lines. That has to happen for us to be consistent. So that's the first thing. Look, at the minute we've got injuries and we've got Brutes away and Noah away, so that again this weekend is tough, but we will get to that point. The second thing is Jack Musil, who has not made the impact that people think yet, but trust me, he's going to. He's going to massively make our team better. And the second thing is, look, I really like, and we've said this, but look, the 4 imports that we've got now, I really like what they bring as individuals, but also as the betterment of the full group. I think Brock's going to get better. He's had a tough stretch over Christmas, and I think he's going to come back good. I think Stelly's going to find his groove again, and we're going to see the best of Stelly. Johnny has been consistent and is every single game. You know what you're getting with him. And look, Emmy is one that has been here for so long, 4 years, a legend of the club. I've said it before, it's true. If this is to be Emmy's last season, and I'm not saying it is, by the way, because we never know with Emmy, but
just rocks up one day.
Do you think he don't want to win? He wants to win, trust me. So look, we've got good lads. We've got like Huey said it right. They've got to come together. They've got to know that they're a good team, and they've got to find that confidence in themselves again to relax and just play the game. And that's the message all the time. I know I look irate constantly on the bench on a weekend, but that in how it really is in meetings and in the week. It's, you know, we talk a lot about making ourselves a better team. They all want to be, and I believe we've come very close in the past 2 years to getting to COV. I think this year we're going to do it, and I think we've got the team now, the makeup. Fingers crossed we keep everyone fit, because that's a big part of it. And we can get some consistent run together and make a real proper run at the end of this year.
I think, you know, talking about, you know, this playoffs and getting to COV, it's, for the last 2 years, you can probably pinpoint maybe one of the 6 games that didn't, you know, as you say, 3-2 versus 4-3, and you know, very slight changes,
little,
just destroy, you know, all hopes. And it's, you know, it's such tight margins. And piecing together that group is going to be so important. Just want to sort of kind of move back to sort of something we've already kind of discussed. You've just touched on it again regarding persona on the bench and how people might like to paint you. And I think it's something that's important that we do address, because I think maybe more so than ever has it become, not just on Hull Seahawks forums, it's become sort of pretty, you know, common around the league for a lot of comments to be directed towards our club's way, and particularly your way. And, you know, we mentioned how, you know, the hard work that goes into this family-run club and doing it almost as a, you know, a second, you know, job on the side. And, you know, it's very different to how people on the outside see it. Not just, you know, obviously there's away fans who see us 2-3 times a year and you'll see videos online. There's home fans who are here every Sunday, but they're not here Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And, you know, they don't see everything that goes into this and the relationships and the atmosphere around the club at all points. They see sometimes snippets of
me losing my head.
Yeah. It's ways that obviously it's, you know, people, we've had a laugh and a joke about it sort of, you know, beforehand on camera, that, you know, your interviews after a game might be the most popular thing in the NIHL National League right now. We've just had comments that Elite League players look forward to them on a weekend, and, you know, we laugh and we joke about it.
No, do you know what, Con? I'm under no illusions here that at the end of the day, I'm the one stood up there. I said this at the beginning. I have got no issues telling the truth, and I'm not going to stand up there and give people the BBC version of this. I know there's a lot of BBC presentators, commentators or whatever for Leeds who say, all I say is when you're trying to find the actual truth and the real meaning of what I'm trying to say, that's why. Because I'm not stood up here trying to paint a picture that this is all going a certain way. It's something that I really do care about and want to make sure that, look, I can handle it. The only thing where it gets to me is you know, like my wife and kids, they constantly don't have me at home, and when I'm not at home and then all they see is me getting abused and stuff, that's hard. And that really does, that gets to me a little bit, because I'm so proud of Hull. So proud of being able to play for Hull. I was the most proud of being the captain in Hull and to win in Hull. And people thinking maybe that I don't care, or this is something might not be right for me, or I don't know. That's tough. Look, I can get it better as a coach. I'm not sat up here saying I'm Mike Babcock. I'm definitely not. I've got a lot of learning and sort of, look, you're never good at something at first. It's 4 years in. Experience is the only real, true, like, learning point of doing the thing that you're trying to be good at, whether it's playing or coaching or anything else that you want to do. So I've been doing this less time than anyone in the league at this point. All the coaches have been doing it a lot. I look at Tommy Watkins, probably one of my best coaches. He's been doing it 20 years, I think, at this point. Even player coaching as well. 10 years on the bench maybe now at this point. So it's like, I'm, you know, I've got a lot to get better at. And I've said this before in interviews. Look, if I'm not the right person for this job, and I can be very objectively honest about that. I will get somebody else to do this job. I will find the right person, and if that's next year, then that is next year. I've got no qualms about doing that. That's not. I'm not just here being the one that wants to do everything. That's not at all me. I want to win. I want to win, and that is all I'm bothered about. And like I say, I'm proud of this club. I'm proud of what we've been able to do. We've filled this rink every week now up, and that is a real proud moment. And I've done it with my best mate. We've been able to do this together, and people. He often tells me how moody and how I'm a moody little, and all that. And yeah, sorry, but I care about it too much probably. And that's probably my downfall. And that's why what you see on interviews is me. Trust me, what I say on the interviews is probably what I've just said to the lads. Maybe not as harsh, but it's very, very close. So it's everything that I'm feeling. And I would hope that my fans appreciate that I tell them exactly what it is. You don't have to like my decision here, by the way. No one's telling you to like, even me. Hate me all you want, that's fine. Support the club, support the team, and support the players. Because they need you, and they deserve it. Because we might not be top of the league right now, but they're playing hard for you, and that's all that anyone can ask. And I've always wanted a team that's blue collar and just works their bag off every single night. And when someone's not doing that for my club, then that's where I need to step in and make that change. I'm not saying anyone won't doing that, by the way, before anyone starts saying anything.
I'll be guessing who.
Yeah, Sob's always played really his hardest for me, and I've said that already. But look, it's for the future, it's for the longevity of the club, and that's what I've got to do. I've got to plan ahead and know that we've got the right people and the pieces in place to hopefully help us win or get closer to winning.
Obviously, with that in mind, then final sort of question. How does this, obviously, hopefully we'll have time to sit down, more sooner than we have done in the last sort of 4 months anyway. How does this next month look? Obviously, still some tough games. Starting off with the MK doubleheader. This might not actually be released in time for that, unfortunately, but we've, had 2 tight games against them already. Strangely, both the away sides have picked up those wins. I said it in the programme notes. It was a rare win for us down in MK last time. Hopefully it's not a rare one again. I aim up to go there Saturday and, hopefully back it up Sunday. But Emmy trying to spoil the party over there.
They're all trying to come in.
So we'll move on to this one quickly. So how does this next month look?
We need to get back to work, back to training, back to a regular schedule of training, and getting back to enjoying it. They need to get back to enjoying it, enjoying coming to work, getting their mojo back, getting the team dynamic of getting regular minutes and reps with people, and just finding our groove and what we are as a team and what makes us a good team. What makes us a good team is we're a good forechecking team. When we're going really hard and we play aggressive, we're very hard to contain. And we need to get that back, and we need to get our just good feeling back and get this rink bouncing again. We all love an all night in here when it's bouncing. There's no place better in the league. I don't care what anyone says. When this place is bouncing, it's top banana. So we'll be fine. We're gonna get there. We'll do as much as we can, and everyone is fully bought into wanting to win, and that is what we want to do, and that is what we will do.
I'd say it's been a pleasure speaking to you, Matt. I think we've addressed some important topics. It's not been, the easiest of podcasts. We spoke about a lot that need to be said, and it's one of those that was probably needed. Hopefully everyone watching will appreciate it. The honesty and once again the look behind the curtain of the club, and what's going on and how things actually work on a day-to-day basis. But thank you very much for watching. A pleasure bringing this back to you. Hopefully we'll see you all soon on the next episode, whenever that may be. Don't forget to like, share, follow and subscribe, and we'll see you all soon.